Oh, I know that sound. It's time for the Beer News Report. Hi, and welcome to the Beer News Report. Cheers. First off, I need to make a correction on my last video. The 3 things needed to secure your country's future. Because a couple of people came up to me and said there was an instance where tanks were used. The U.S. used tanks to quell a protest. And they told me about Kent State, Jackson State, and the bombing of the Move House. So I checked into these cases, and I didn't find any tanks, but I did notice that they used armored personnel carriers, like this one shown here, but that's not a tank. And yes, it does have a big gun at the top of it, but compare that to a tank. The tank has a huge cannon and a turret that swivels. Also, it's lower to the ground than an armored personnel carrier. So I accept that those are bad instances when the military went overboard, but to my knowledge, the U.S. has never used a tank on a protest. So you're welcome to prove me wrong. I'll even post your name with the correction on my show. So please email me. Cheers. Okay, back to the show. Now, many of you, instead of texting or emailing, are now doing Zoom calls with friends and family. I'm doing it all the time now. It's to the point now that if a couple weeks go by, my friend will text me saying, "Hey Art, when's the next Zoom call?" It seems to be the latest addiction that everyone's into, which, if I had to pick an addiction, I'd say that Zoom calling is a pretty good one, right? Cheers. Now, I live in California, more precisely Santa Clara County, which, if you've been watching the news, is one of the hotspots for the COVID-19 spread. As you can guess, this is a hot topic of discussion on our Zoom calls, and people are wondering, why is it spreading so fast? I heard about that and I thought, this sounds like a great math problem to solve. And I'm up for the challenge. So, today's show is to explain why the COVID-19 spread so fast, and if there's anything that we can do about it. Now, I know most of my viewers don't appreciate math as much as I do, so I'm going to keep the math simple and explain as much and clearly as possible on how this all works. So let's dig in and see how COVID-19 spread so fast. First thing about COVID-19 is what's called R0. It's an R with a 0. That's the symbol for reproductive ratio. Why is it called R0? Because the 0 is at the ground level, right? And in terms of numbers, nothing's really lower than 0. So they say not because it's Old English. Hey, don't look at me. I didn't name it. If it was up to me, I would have said 0. Okay, so let's take a sip of beer and accept that R0 is the symbol for reproductive ratio. Cheers. Now, what is the R0 for COVID-19? That's a great question. I'm glad you asked because it's different everywhere. Yeah, you like that answer? See how I dodged it? If anyone comes up to you and says that the R0 for the COVID-19 is always this number or always that number, you have my permission to laugh in their face and loudly yell bullshit. And say it in a way that you spray saliva onto their face and then touch your forehead saying, "Geez, I may have a fever." That'll put the fear of God in them. Now, why am I saying this? Because people in countries react differently to COVID-19 when it first came out, right? The Chinese, they locked down the whole city and forced testing on everyone. No one was allowed to get in or out until the virus was gone. The South Koreans, they did mega testing right away. They traced where the infection started and then quarantined everyone that was infected. The U.S., well, President Trump said it was a hoax and not to worry about it. There was no federally instituted program to deal with the virus. Hey, way to pass the buck. Cheers. So the R0 for China and South Korea is really low, probably below 1. But for the U.S., it ranges because it was left up to the state governors to deal with. And each state did it differently, so each state has a different R0 rating. Have I confused you enough? You have completely no idea what I'm talking about? Okay, let me show you an example. Let's say that you have COVID-19, but you don't know it, right? It's called being asymptomatic, meaning you don't have a fever, there's no cough, you basically feel fine. When two people are talking together, you can see how the virus spreads through little aerosol droplets. Now, if you travel anywhere, the government wants you to self-quarantine for 14 days because they feel that's enough time for the symptoms to appear. But that's a worst case scenario, and most symptoms happen before that. So for our example, let's say the symptoms appear in 7 days, right? We're going to use the middle between 1 and 14. So let's say on average, you meet 5 people a day. Some days more, some days less, but on average, 5 people a day. Now we have to just pick an R naught number for this whole math problem to work. So let me just do a quick explanation of how R naught works. If R naught is 1, that means when you meet those 5 people, you'll infect 1 of them. If R naught is 2, you meet the 5 people, you'll infect 2 of them. R naught is 3, you'll infect 3. It has its limits though, right? If the R naught is 6 and you only meet 5 people, you can't infect 6. There's only 5, so you'd infect all 5 of those. Now, let's go back to the example and just start with the R naught of 1. And, we'll start at the bottom and work our way up, right? Cheers. Now, we're going to have to make some assumptions. One is that your friends pretty much have the same social pattern as you, meaning they're also going to meet 5 people each day. But since they're your friends, and most people have friends in common, let's say that out of the 5, 2 of these people are the same person, right? So it's not really 5 new people, it's 3 new people and 2 people that you both know in common. Now, we're going to look at it from a county point of view because the county is, well, at least for us, the county is the one that has to trace back all the people that you came in contact with and test them. So actually, we want to figure out how many people the county will have to test after you've gone around for 5 days not knowing that you have the COVID-19 virus. All right, let's look at the setup. First, you have the COVID virus 19, but you don't know it. Second, it takes 7 days for symptoms to appear. Third, you and everyone else meets 5 people every day, but 2 of the 5 are the same friends as you, so you really only meet 3 new people. Fourth, out of these 5 friends, you'll infect 1 of them. And 5, after 7 days, how many people does the county have to trace and test to shut down the spread? And just for a note, in Santa Clara County, right now they have a goal of testing 4,000 people each day. All right, so I made a simple spreadsheet to show you the numbers involved in the growth pattern. And this is for an R naught of 1. And it means, for the most part, you're probably wearing a mask, you're keeping social distancing, you're following the CDC guidelines. Here's where one person gets infected, and then one by one, they start infecting one person after the other, until finally, the infection hits someone who has medical information and can stop it and quarantine the others. Okay, so here is the table for one person, meaning you're infected, you don't know it, you're going to meet 5 people, you'll infect one person that you meet, and then on the next day, you'll meet another 5, but 2 of them will be the same. So let's see how many people the county has to trace. So on day 0, that's the first day, you're the only one infected. You meet 5 people, you infect 1, and they're all the same because it's the first day. You can't meet a second person. So there's 5 new traces to do. On day 2, now it's you and that other person you infected, so there's 2 infected people. You're going to meet 10 because everyone meets 5 people. You'll infect 1 out of 5, so that's 2 people that get infected. Now, out of the 10, 4 of them are the same. So for new traces, there's only 11 new people to trace. So then as we go further down, now we're up to 4 because that's 2 plus 2 is 4. And you can see now we're going to have 4 plus 4 is 8. So it goes up arithmetically. You can see 4, 8, 16, 32. So finally on the 7th day, there's 128 people that are infected. They don't know it. They're going to meet 640 people, and they're infecting 1 out of those people, so that's 128. There's 256 out of that 640 that are the same, and now the county has to trace 767 people. Now, let's change one thing. Let's make R naught 2, meaning that from now on, when you meet someone, you're going to infect 2 people instead of 1. So in this instance, maybe you don't always wear a mask, or sometimes you get closer to some friends than others. And, how does that change the numbers? So now 1 person infects 2 people. We can see now how the virus spreads much more rapidly. And by day 4, we're running out of people to infect, and we finally hit someone with medical information who now quarantines the whole sick group. So here's the table where the R naught is equal to 2, meaning that when you meet people, you'll infect 2 of them. So this is you on the first day, and you're going to meet 5 people, so you infect 2. Everyone's different because it's the first day, so there's 5 people that the county has to trace. Now on the next day, there's 3 people because it's you and the 2 people you infected. You're going to meet 15 because everyone meets 5 people. That means you'll infect 6 more people, although 6 of them are the same, so there's only 14 people to trace. So now as we go down, by day 7, 2,187 people have been infected. They're going to meet almost 11,000 people, of which 4,374 people will get infected, but 4,374 people of them are the same, so the county only has to trace 9,842 people. But think about it. When we were only infecting 1 person, that was under 800, and now we're at 9,000. So you can see how a little difference makes a huge growth. All right, so now, let's say you're an Uber driver or a bus driver or some job where you meet a lot of people. And let's say at least 10. You're going to meet 10 new people each day, and you have COVID-19, you don't know it. And again, we're going to stay with an infection of 2. So and it's 2 out of 5, right? So you're going to meet 10 people, and you're going to infect 2 out of 5. So that means 4 people. How many people would you infect by the end of the week? So here's the table for when you're meeting 10 people, but everyone else is going to meet 5 people. Also, everyone infects 2 out of 5, and not you, but the other people will have the same friends just like we had before. So on the first day, it's you have 10 people because you're an Uber driver. You infect 4 because it's 2 out of 5, and that leaves us 10 people to trace for the county. So the next day, there's 5 because it's you plus the 4, and you're going to meet 30 people. You meet 10, and the other 4 people meet 5 each for 20. You'll infect 12, and so now there's 32 people that we need to trace. And as you go down the line near the end on the 7th day, there's over 4,000 people that are infected. You meet almost 22,000. You'll infect almost 9,000. And in the end, to trace, we have to do 19,712, and that's for the county. Whoa, that's intense. Cheers. What these tables are showing us is that the instant you feel sick, you should get tested, because the longer you wait, the more people will have a chance of getting infected from you. Now, I've seen on the news where someone, usually a young person, doesn't care about the virus and feels that it's the same. If he gets infected, it'll be just like getting the normal flu, and that's it. And for the most part, they're probably right? Young people, it's been shown that the COVID virus really doesn't infect them. So to them, it's no big deal. They're not going to wear a mask. They're not going to do social distancing. They don't care. Now, we saw from these charts that 1 person can cause infections of 10K or more people in a week. And that's just 1 person. Now, Newsweek did a story. You might have seen this on the news, where colleges are holding COVID parties. Now, what's a COVID party? This is a party where someone has the COVID. They know that this person has the COVID disease, and he tries infecting other people on purpose. And this isn't in 1 campus. It's happening in multiple states around the United States. So if 1 person can possibly infect 10,000, right, then what if you have 100 or 200 people? That would be in the millions. Now check out this table from the COVID Tracking Project. This is the U.S. cumulative totals for daily testing of the COVID virus. It ranges between 600 and 700,000 per day. Well, according to factcheck.org, Harvard Global Health Institute calculated we needed to do 500,000 tests per day, but that was on May 1st. On May 15th, they revised that to 900,000 per day. But Nobel laureate and New York University economist Paul Romer said that we actually need to do about 25 million per day, but he revised that to 35 million per day. So then Harvard came back and said, wait a minute, we're going to change ours to 2 million tests per day and ramp up to 5 million tests per day. And they think that it may grow as many as 20 million per day. That seems ridiculously high. Why do we need to do so much testing? Well, according to NPR, National Public Radio, the World Health Organization, or WHO, has set a benchmark of 10% positive results from COVID testing, meaning that when you test people, if your results show more than 10% of the tests coming back positive, then you need to do more testing. Right now, the US is averaging about 18% positive tests, so in theory, we need to double our current testing, which would put us well over 1 million tests per day. So this isn't impossible, but it will take a concerted effort by the government and a unified participation by our people, which doesn't seem likely to happen. It's enough to make you want to drink, right? Cheers. Now, before I end my show, I want to tell you a personal story about patriotism. Being devoted to your country. You may have seen people being interviewed on the news saying that this is a free country and wearing a face mask is against their constitutional rights. I don't know if that's true. I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but consider this. When I was growing up, and I grew up in the small state of Vermont, a tiny town called Barrie, my parents told me stories about what they had to go through during World War II. So one of them was, sometimes you had to turn your lights out at night. 2, you gave up eating good pieces of meat and you ate organ meat like liver or kidneys. So our boys overseas, they could have the good meat and help them fight better. And you had to conserve everything, gas, rubber. They did all this because they wanted to be patriots and wanted to help our country. So now we're in a different war, right? Our boys and girls aren't overseas, but we're still in a war. And to help our country win, we need to wash our hands regularly. We need to wear a face mask. We need to keep 6 feet apart. And if you don't need to go out, then stay inside. If this is what is needed to be done to be a patriot, then I'm doing it, right? Washing my hands, wearing a face mask, keeping 6 feet apart. This is a piece of cake compared to what my parents had to go through. So I'm asking you this. If you truly want to be a patriot and help your country, you'll do it too, right? So here's to being a patriot. Cheers. Well, you can see I'm near the end of my beer. I hope you learned something today and you stay safe out there. Please like the video and subscribe if you want to see more. And until next time, keep your beer cold and your interests hot. Cheers.